Tonight on Lead Story, we turn the spotlight on one of the most ambitious and hotly debated public transport policies in recent years, the rollout of the rural school bus system. With over 100 buses slated to be delivered by the end of July, the government touts it as a transformational initiative that promises safer, more affordable, more reliable transportation for students in rural Jamaica. But the initiative has not been without controversy. We'll be speaking directly with Minister Vaz this evening about the facts behind the rollout, the validity of the criticisms, the broad implications for rural education, and the political firestorm surrounding the initiative. And welcome to Lead Story. I'm your host, Sondre Roden. The opposition has raised sharp criticisms about the age and the condition of the buses, questioning their safety, the maintenance history in strongly worded rebuttals. Tonight, our guest will be the Minister with responsibility for transport, the Honorable Darrell Vaz. He dismissed these claims as reckless and dishonest, pointing to what he describes as the gold standard of American-made school buses, many of which have been sourced for this program. Caroline Brown prepared a report to bring us up to speed, emerging from Minister Vaz's press briefing this morning.
Transport Minister Darrell Vaz working through his own statistics to update and steady the first ever rural school bus system after the opposition poked a few holes ahead of a grand structured phased rollout which is still in transit.
In essence, all 110 school buses will be here by the end of July.
47 small 32-seaters, 38 mid-size buses with seat 54 each, and 25 buses designed to seat 72 each. And with an alarming percentage of students who reportedly expressed feeling least safe and secure when commuting, claims of old buses obviously also triggered the minister.
We did not buy buses based on pictures. We sent a team from the JUTC along with the supplier to go and inspect and select the buses that we deemed and sought suitable for Jamaica. Therefore, the units are inspected by both overseas and local experts whose confirmation of them meeting the required standard is obtained prior to the admission of a bus to our fleet. Our children's safety is our #1 priority. This is why the Jamaica Rural School Bus Program is utilizing the gold standard of American-made school buses.
On board the Public Safety and Traffic Enforcement Branch in the Jamaica Constabulary Force and the Safety and Security in Schools Unit in the Ministry of Education and Youth, pointing to an ongoing process of collaboration which involves consultations with stakeholders in the schools, including principals, to arrive at critical decisions such as best routes. So what of concerns about displacing private operators?
I have not heard one cry from any public passenger association or even the operators themselves, because they live it. They know it. And the fact is, if I can take off 28,000 students off of their routes so that they can take that much more adults paying full fare, then it is a win-win for both the government, the transport operators, the parents, the teachers, and the children.
Time, best practice, discipline, accountability, and responsibility by parents and students are other common threads to keep what's being described as a game changer revved up and on course.
I wish to reiterate that the plans for the rollout of the school bus system remain firmly on track for September morning 2025.
Doors on the wrong side will be made right, he adds, for the left-hand drive buses. Curlin Brown, CVM News.
Thank you so much, Curlin, for that report. After the break, Minister Vaz joins us live. Stick with us for Lead Story. One, two, 1, 2. Good. Oh, yeah. Oh, I just realized that it's not coming up on the screen. Good evening, Minister. Minister, you hearing? Minister Vaz? Oh, great. He says he's hearing me clearly. Yes, I am. All right, 1 minute before we start, Minister.
All right.
Welcome back to Lead Story. We're starting this conversation about the rural school bus system, and joining me is Minister Vaz. Good evening and welcome, Minister Vaz.
Hearing you very low, sir. Very low.
All right, he's hearing very low. I'm asking that we fix that in studio. Is it any better, Minister Vaz?
No, not much better. You want to call me back and see if it's a bad connection?
No, we're live. We're going to keep going, Minister.
All right, I hear you better now.
Okay, great. So you've described the rural school bus system as one of the most transformative policies since independence. Now, the question is, why do you believe this initiative is such a game changer for rural Jamaica?
All right, so you either have to be a rural parent or a student or a caring member of parliament to understand the difficulties that parents and students find in terms of getting transportation to school on a daily basis. And it is three-pronged. First, affordability. It costs an average of $300 to $600 per day per child. So therefore, it becomes unaffordable for the average parent who has 3 or 4 children. And in a lot of cases, they are forced to choose one of the 4 or one of the 3 or one of the 5 and invest everything in them, leaving the other 3 or 4 at home to go and run errands or to go farm or whatever else they do. So that is number one. Number two, the children are at a distinct disadvantage because the fare that they pay is a lower fare subsidized by the government for transportation. And therefore, the transport operators get a higher fare for adults, hence the reason why they call at all taxi stands and bus stops in rural Jamaica is no schoolers, no schoolers. So the fact is, by the time those kids get to school, the ones that do make it to school, they're in no condition mentally to learn because they are traumatized, both by virtue of the experience of having to fight to get a space on the transportation, and when they do get it, it is in the most uncomfortable form, hanging out of windows, sitting out a trunk, all different kinds of things. So the fact is, what we are doing here is putting in a dedicated school bus service, which is going to specifically deal with the children in rural Jamaica
and basically be able to put in a fulsome system where not only their safety is of paramount importance, but more importantly, that the parents and the schools will be able to account for their children at all stages.
So how were the first schools and routes selected for phase 1? And on that point as well, how will equity be ensured across rural communities, noting that some communities will be questioning, where's my bus?
Sure. So obviously this first phase is 258 schools with 122 routes now. Started at 100 routes,
right.
Is now at 122. That is determined by the Ministry of Education in conjunction with the educational regions and the schools themselves. JUTC and the Transport Minister is only dealing with the operations and the policy directive in terms of the initiation of a school bus. So that is something that Mr. Troop spoke about today, but you are correct in terms of the fact that obviously the first phase will not accommodate all routes and all schools, but I'm giving a commitment again, which I've given before, that my aim is that within the next 24 months, that we will have enough buses, dedicated school buses in Jamaica to cover the 658 or 53 or whatever schools in rural Jamaica to be able to provide the routes to allow for children to be able to travel to school in a safe, economic manner.
So one of the concerns, one of the major concerns and criticisms has been the age of the buses. So walk us through the process, Minister, of how the buses were selected. I know you said this morning that a team was sent from the JUTC to look at the buses to ensure they were fit and proper. So what is that process, or what was it like?
Okay, so first of all, the buses are governed by the Department of Transportation in the United States of America. They are the ones who stipulate the maintenance schedule, the safety standards for the manufacture of the buses, and everything. So these buses operate in all 52 states in the United States of America. And from time to time, based on the government's policy over there, which is to allow for about $5 billion between 2022 and now, that has been pumped in by the government to encourage fleet owners and operators to change out their buses in a more timely manner. So the fact that they do that and these buses become available, they are not uncertified. They are still certified by the Department of Transport, and most of them go into secondary operations of private owners who operate transport businesses in the United States. And then, in this case, Jamaica was interested, and at the same time, Canada, who buys quite a number of these buses when they are ready for rotation, along with Panama, Guadeloupe, several other countries.
So are you saying we got a deal on these buses, Minister?
You would get a deal. You would get a deal because the fact of the matter is that because they are getting these grants and these subsidies by the U.S. government,
yeah,
then it means that they can pass on better pricing to the secondary market. So I want to reject out of hand the wicked and evil thoughts of the opposition, saying that these buses are buses that are at end of life and they are no longer good for the United States of America, and therefore they're dumping them in Jamaica. Absolute rubbish. Rubbish. And I want to make sure that I categorically state that the buses are certified. The buses will continue the same maintenance schedule that the Department of Transport in the U.S. does, by a arrangement that we have with the supplier of the buses for a yearly maintenance contract that will be overseen by the JUTC engineers.
Hold it for me there, Minister.
On top of which parts, as a part of the process as well, so parts maintenance are a part of the package of the $1.4 billion.
Hold it for me, Minister. We're going for a break. When we're coming back on that point about the maintenance schedule. Your Earth Lead story. We'll be right back with you. Welcome back to Lead Story. For those of you just joining us, we're talking about the rural school bus system. We've been hearing a lot happening out there about this rural school bus system, an initiative spearheaded by the minister in charge of transport. He has a long-titled ministry, but now we're focusing on the transport portfolio, Minister Darrell Vaz. Now, the criticisms have come particularly from the opposition People's National Party about the buses. They've gone at length to talk about buses on their platforms in the last couple of days when it's not the amount of students the buses can accommodate, to know the age of the buses, to the buses being called old, and all those things lumped together into a number of criticisms being put on this bus system that the minister says by July we should have the buses on the island. As a matter of fact, for our viewers who don't know, I saw two of the buses this morning that were there at the Ministry of Transport. Now, Minister, based on that context, we're talking about maintenance and the schedule. Now, the average age that we got from you this morning is 10 years, right? With some even newer, and that assumes that some are older. Now, how do you compare that one to what we have now as our national public transport fleet? And with what you said about maintenance, how can we be sure that if there are issues on the road, that we will have swift resolve for those students who will need the bus for tomorrow?
So let me answer the last question. We have 110 buses. We only put in 100 into the operations.
Right.
The other 10 are going to be strategically located around Jamaica as contingency in the event of any replacement of any bus for any period of time. So that is the 10% contingency. But the more important point that I want to make is that the average age of registered motor cars currently in the public transport system is 14 years. Prior to the recent purchases, the average age of the buses in the JUTC fleet was 14 years. Yes? And I am further advised that currently the average age of registered buses in the wider public transport system is 18 years old. And as you said, the average age of these school buses are 10 years, some below 10 years, as low as 8 years old. But more importantly, the bigger thing is that these buses have been maintained under the supervision of the Department of Transport. And these buses have much lower mileage because of the fact that they only operate in the mornings and the evenings specific to school. So the engines that have 160,000 miles on them, like the one I showed today, the Cummins diesel engine, when you Google it, for the school buses, I think it's a B2 Cummins engine, has a lifeline of 300,000 to 500,000 miles. Therefore, what's going to happen is that these buses will last us 10 to 15 years based on the current maintenance and the continued maintenance. Now, that is value for money that you cannot beat. On top of which, as I said before, the United States school bus system is the gold star of school bus systems across the globe. So everything that they have put into the specifications for safety in the bus, the engines that they are using, the transmissions that they are using, the chassis that they are using are all the best of the best.
Tell me a little bit more about the safety features though, Minister.
The what?
The safety features that are in the buses.
First of all, the seats in the buses are higher than ordinary seats. In the event that the bus stops suddenly, that children don't fly over on top of one another. They all have seat belts. They have emergency exits too. In some cases, they have an emergency exit or a hatch on the roof so that, God forbid, if something happens and if the bus turns on its side or whatever and the door to come out is blocked, they have access to go either through the back door, the emergency door, or go through the roof. All of these things are thought out and specified. These buses have been in the United States school bus system from 1937. From I'm a kid watching movie, I see yellow bus. And now I'm 62 years old, and I see them when I go to Canada, I see them when I go to the United States, and they are the same buses that have been used from 1937, save and except for some technological advances.
So what you should say, Minister, is that you're bringing the yellow buses to Jamaica. But I have two more questions for you quickly, Minister. Beyond transportation, Minister, how do you see this influencing student attendance, academic performance, etc., as it relates to what happens in our rural schools now?
So excellent question. Currently, we spend as a government $7 billion a year on a school feeding program. They have now increased that to $8 billion because they are including breakfast. The fact of the matter is you could provide them with 3 meals a day. If you don't have a proper transport system to get them there in a frame of mind to learn, you are wasting money. And on top of which, we see the results that we are not happy with in terms of the performance overall of the education system in Jamaica. And one of the root causes is transportation, or the lack thereof of transportation. So for me, that's why I say, and I will defend it to my death, that this is the most transformative policy since independence, because if you're not teaching and graduating literate students, the country has no future, because the leadership that is going to come is going to be limited when each of these children have the potential and the ability to excel if they are given the proper working school surroundings. The $1.4 billion that we are spending is for the buses, inland freight, sea freight, parts, refurbishing, maintenance, retrofitting, technology, cashless system for $1.4 billion.
So I only have 2 minutes left.
The opposition is offering 20,000 families $2,500 a week. That comes to the same $1.4 billion, but does not fix the ills, because they want to use the same broken system that is not guaranteeing the safety of the children. And you see that by the statistics today in relation to the amount of deaths of school children and injuries to school children over the last few years.
I'm glad you got to this point, Minister, because some have said that the political tone around this initiative has grown extremely divisive. It's as if every platform you hear from the opposition, you've heard about it.
Only one party is to blame for that. And it is a sick and sad day that in 2025 we are still practicing the politics of power at all costs. So the people of Jamaica are incensed, the government is incensed, and the people must do the right thing. They must reject the start of politics in 2025. I take no blame. I am defending a policy that the opposition is trying to tear apart for straight political purposes. Their plan that they have put forward is not worth the paper it is written on, because it's a knee-jerk reaction that has not been properly thought out. And what I have presented to the people of Jamaica, I have ticked all the boxes, and I can stay for hours on this telephone interview with you and give you all of the positives that will come out of it. Nothing is perfect. It will take time, because you're going to have teething pains, as everything does. But guess what? We are going to do it, and we're going to deliver. This is a national emergency. Argument done.
All right, finally, Minister, I have about 30 seconds. What do you say to the parents who may be skeptical about putting their child on the buses come September? That rural parent that's watching, seeing all that's happening, but they want to know, they want some assurance. What would you say to them?
The assurance that I give them is that we will start with phase 1, and the routes that we will do, which will be made public in short order, will be properly managed and monitored, and you will have an opportunity to know where your children are at all stages of the morning commute and the evening commute through technology. And I can tell you, based on what has transpired in Portland over the last 9 weeks with the one bus that we have down there, it is a new day in every parish. Those buses will be going through the parishes by the end of July to do a test run, So people that are skeptical because of the politics that's being played will see them, touch them, and feel them, and understand that time comes for a new bus system, and that's what I'm going to deliver.
Thank you so much, Minister Vaz. It, of course, would be a continuing conversation because you're very passionate about this topic, but that's all the time we have for Lead Story.
I am passionate and I am sickened, like every well-thinking Jamaican, of the disgusting, evil, and wicked remarks that have been made by the highest level of the opposition.
All right. Thank you, Minister. That's Minister Vaz, Minister in charge of Transport. That's all the time we have for Lead Story this evening. I'm Sondre Roden. Until next time, we'll be back with you. Of course, later we have the news, and then after that we have Lead Story Prime. Have a good evening.